Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Disney's Wish tried disastrously to make a Disney animation cinematic universe. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Disney's Wish failed for more than one reason. We'll cover a few of them today. Coming from Forbes, Wish tried disastrously to make a Disney animation cinematic universe. Also from Forbes, Wish had one of Disney's worst openings ever for an animated movie. Here's why. From The Messenger, Disney's Wish is an animated anti-Trump allegory. Wish features a talking goat, Adriana DeBose, and some not very subtle political allegory, according to The Messenger's movie critic. The director of Wish, Fawn Veerasunthorn, is a Thai film director and animator. She worked on Disney's animation films Frozen, Moana, and Zootopia as a storyboard artist. A lot of respect for storyboard artists. They really set the movie up and help the filmmakers understand what the movie is going to be. However, being a storyboard artist in 2016 and then getting to be a director and co-writer on a film at the size of Wish and the importance of the movie Wish to the Disney business really doesn't make sense. She was also head of story on Raya and the Last Dragon, which also did really badly. So when you go back and you point at what her experience was and why you would give her this important project, the only answer is there really is no answer. Another director on the film, Chris Buck, has a lot of experience. But if you pay attention to Disney, especially when you look at their Marvel films, you see them giving people opportunities, which is fantastic to do, but way over their head, without any way to check on them and make sure that the project is good. This concept is the absolute killer of this movie. Trying to create a Disney animated cinematic universe isn't even a bad idea. It's actually a great idea. But you need qualified people working on things like this. It can't just be, oh, this person has a baseball hat. That person was a storyboard artist a few years ago. Sure, whatever. Go do whatever you want with all of our brands that define this multi-billion-dollar company, and you can figure out how you want to link them all together, and okay, it's a cinematic universe. From Forbes, if you think Disney has learned a few lessons and will start moving away from trying to make everything a cinematic universe, you will be proven wrong by Wish, the recent Disney animation feature which debuted with rotten 50% reviews and in third place to the new Hunger Games and even Napoleon, Ridley Scott's middling R-rated historical-ish epic. What's wrong with Wish? Many things, including a viral clip that portrayed the central hero as kind of dumb and its villain as kind of right. If you remember the original trailer, you'd look at the trailer and you'd say, why would you disagree with this guy? He's saying, let's be careful about who we grant wishes to. We can't just grant everyone's wish. But the most egregious thing may be how the film ends. Probably one of the worst endings to any classic Disney animated movie ever. By the end of the film, we have Asha wishing on a star, which becomes the literal star that is wished on in Pinocchio. King Magnifico appears to become the magic mirror from Snow White, in addition to Asha's friends being modeled after the Seven Dwarfs. There are Tangled, Pocahontas, Bambi, and Peter Pan cameos or references. There are strong indications that Asha will eventually become the wish-granting fairy godmother in Cinderella. The directors of the film said they literally put every Disney film on a board and decided which references to throw into their film, which appears to be a majority of movies over the years. Quote, we talked about making an original story with original songs, making sure that was solid before we added all these layers, co-director Chris Buck told Business Insider. But now there's over 100 nods, meaning references to Disney's past films. And here's Disney Animation Studios CCO Jennifer Lee speaking to Games Radar. Quote, I think the concept of a Disney multiverse has come up so many times from people, just all the little hints like Rapunzel in Frozen and things like that. We have indeed seen subtle threads of connected films before, but the point is that Wish is not subtle at all, and few critics who saw the film were not wild about that concept. While this may not be building to some sort of Disney Avengers versus Disney villains concept in the future, at least certainly not after Wish's disastrous box office performance, it's one of the many things that seem to have gone wrong with the film to create this situation. Wish is yet another example of Disney having an incredibly rough year, just a couple of weeks ago having its worst superhero performance ever, and earlier having Secret Invasion be its worst Disney Plus show despite an insane budget. It's unclear when things may start to turn around. And we have this great comment from one of the readers. To add on to this, Wish makes it irritatingly worse by picking and choosing which films are part of its extended universe and which films are excluded. The Rescuers and Down Under, Three Caballeros, Black Cauldron, Meet the Robinsons, among others, are excluded from their universe with little rhyme or reason why they are, while something like Chicken Little, which was a critical and commercial bomb, is included in the Wishverse. Highly embarrassing and disrespectful for a 100th anniversary film. Also from Forbes, Wish had one of Disney's worst openings ever for an animated movie. Here's why. Disney's Wish failed to take off at the box office last weekend, adding a dismal theatrical opening to the film's already poor reviews, making it Disney's latest in a series of financial disappointments as the company struggles to bring audiences back to theaters to see their movies. Disney's Wish debuted in third place at the box office last weekend, falling well behind projections to gross $19.5 million in its 3-day domestic opening weekend and $31.7 million over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. Days before the film's November 22 opening, Deadline and Variety both projected a 5-day domestic opening of up to $50 million for the film, which cost $200 million to make and even more to market the movie. Usually it's at least $100 million. Wish fell behind the opening weekend gross of nearly every other film produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios, only surpassing the openings of a few flops like Strange World and Raya and the Lost Dragon. Remember, Raya and the Lost Dragon was a film Fawn Vera Sunthorn worked on. She was the head of story for that one. And it failed to reach the heights of its 7 films that opened with more than $45 million in the 2010s. Deadline attributed the film's underperformance to its trailer, which it stated does not make the plot of the film clear, and its premise, which is considered a plug-and-play princess movie with the silly sidekicks, a talking goat and puffy star, that is derivative of other Disney animated films. Some critics noted the film, which was intended to celebrate the Walt Disney Company's 100th anniversary, appeared to be more of a corporate product than a magical event and a forced attempt to recapture some sliver of movie magic. An anonymous feature distribution analyst told Deadline audiences are likely waiting to watch Wish at home once it streams on Disney+, stating the studio failed to create an urgency for audiences to head to the theaters and criticizing the film as being more about a celebration of the company's birthday than a compelling piece of content. It is understandable that Disney could get tripped up in trying to do a 100th year anniversary project and making sure that the public understands its importance to Disney, but at the same time that it's still a really valuable and interesting and compelling project, well worth going to see in the theaters and differentiating it and communicating that. Those are marketing issues. That's something Disney should not have dropped the ball on. It's difficult to do, but they certainly spend enough money on executives to know how to do it. Disney CEO Bob Iger acknowledged the studio's box office struggles in an earnings call earlier this month, stating the company lost some focus by prioritizing quantity instead of quality and would shift towards emphasizing quality output. But we all know it's not about quality versus quantity, it's about confusion. In Screen Rant, they did this article. Is Asha from Wish a Disney princess? It's complicated. Well, what do you mean it's complicated? Disney is known for princesses. Either she is or she is not. And if she is not, that's kind of inexplicable because it's their princess brand. And their princess brand will absolutely die if they don't do new princesses. And if you're Disney and you've done so many princesses before, how could you possibly justify a 100-year anniversary for Disney and not doing a princess movie, which is what you've been known for pretty much during that entire time ever since Snow White? And I know what you're wondering, is Snow White a princess? Yes, of course. Snow White is a fictional character and the protagonist from Disney's 1937 animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, as well as an official Disney princess. Snow White is a princess of noble birth who was forced into servitude by her jealous stepmother, The Queen. Wish opened in theaters 2 weeks after The Marvels, another major flop for Disney this year. The Marvels opened with a disappointing $46.1 million in its opening weekend, the worst domestic opening weekend performance for any Marvel Cinematic Universe film, and less than a third of the opening weekend of 2019's Captain Marvel, the film's predecessor. Though, of course, Captain Marvel didn't stand on its own. She was part of the Avengers. The Avengers were the biggest movies that Marvel has done so far. That is obviously 90% of the reason that people went to go see that movie. Similarly, Black Panther was helped a lot by his tie-in with the Avengers. Some industry experts attributed the film's underperformance to superhero fatigue. The Marvels has grossed $188 million worldwide to date so far, far behind Captain Marvel, which topped $1.1 billion, and many other Marvel films which had historically been reliable hits. In another box office bomb this year, Disney's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny debuted with just $60 million in its opening weekend and grossed $383 million worldwide, a major disappointment considering its $300 million plus budget plus marketing campaign. Dial of Destiny is the worst performing Indiana Jones film at the domestic box office without adjusting for inflation, despite being released more than 40 years after the original film. Haunted Mansion was another bomb this year, making just $24 million in its domestic opening weekend and $117 million total worldwide against a $150 million budget plus marketing, making it a huge financial loss. Haunted Mansion may have failed to attract audiences because of its July release, Variety reported. The then-going actors' strike prevented its stars from promoting it, and some industry experts felt the film would have been better suited for the Halloween season. The Little Mermaid and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, other Disney films released this year, were considered disappointments for falling below industry projections despite grossing more than double their budgets. It's a good rough estimate to look at double the cost of a movie's budget to get an understanding for what is considered to be break-even, because these movies are sold through other multiple channels like streaming services, broadcast rights, pay-per-view, and a variety of other places. Film finance is very complicated. Wish, an animated musical starring Ariana DeBose and Chris Pine, failed to outgross The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which surpassed expectations to win its second straight weekend at the box office, and Ridley Scott's historical epic Napoleon, which also beat expectations to place second. The Hunger Games grossed $42 million at the domestic box office over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend, while Napoleon did $32.5 million, just $800,000 more than Wish. The Thanksgiving box office totaled about $172 million, the best outing since the pandemic, but theaters still haven't recovered to pre-pandemic levels when Thanksgiving weekend regularly surpassed $250 million in total gross, according to CNBC. At the same time, if Disney would put out a couple of good movies instead of the Marvels and Wish, they could have had another $100 million, beating that $250 million number easily. Wish has just a 50% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, making it one of the worst reviewed Disney animated films of all time. According to the Rotten Tomatoes critic consensus, although the film warmly references many of the studio's classics, a focus on nostalgia is no substitute for genuine storytelling magic. The critic from Vulture wrote the film fails on every level, calling it an ultimate cop-out, a lifeless, uninspiring mess of bland brand management. The Daily Beast critic called the film flimsy as a star decal stuck to a wall. Because of thin characters, lackluster songs, and a focus on Disney's anniversary rather than a coherent story. Disney had an even worse box office flop over last year's Thanksgiving weekend. The animated film Strange World grossed just $11.9 million in its opening weekend and $18.6 million over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. Variety projected as much as $40 million for the film over the holiday weekend, which it noted still would have been a poor performance for the $180 million budgeted film. The Variety report said Strange World would have needed to gross $360 million worldwide to break even, but after its theatrical run, it grossed just $73 million. Strange World was the biggest box office bomb of 2022, according to Deadline, with an estimated loss of $197 million for Disney. Box office flops still have the potential to perform well on Disney Plus, Deadline reported. Elemental, which initially disappointed at the box office, became one of the streaming service's most viewed films, with 26.4 million views in its first 5 days of release. Only one Marvel film is set to open in theaters in 2024, Deadpool 3, the anticipated follow-up to Deadpool and Deadpool 2, both of which surpassed $700 million at the global box office. That's when Fox was doing them. We'll see what happens when Disney puts out Deadpool 3. Disney released 4 Marvel films in 2021 and 3 in 2022 and 2023. Obviously, there were a lot of things wrong with Wish. The critics didn't like it. Generally, it seems like people felt it was a soulless movie without any real purpose. The problem with that is just basically bad writing and also trying to push an agenda. I don't understand why Disney has inexperienced directors that they then give massive budgeted projects to and then allow those directors to become one of the writers, like Nia DaCosta did on the Marvels. Same kind of situation. A director, unproven, with a massive multi-$100 million budget on an incredibly important film, and they give that director the permission to co-write that project as well. Why would you want a writer different from a director? Because they would have conversations about the material and have different insights. You don't want to give that much control to somebody unless it's like a major filmmaker with an incredible background, someone who's been making great films for multiple years, who negotiates for the right to be able to write and direct their own movie. Many writers would love to direct their own movies. They don't get the option to do that. It takes years and years of building a reputation to have that kind of opportunity. Disney is going to have to get back to focusing on merit, or they're just going to continue to have failure after failure. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.